What's going on? This is Shango motherfucking Ray, aka Real Deal Ray. So, guess what we're going to be talking about here is how to use the power of paradox to unfuck thyself, right? And since we're doing this live, if you're watching the rebroadcast, you can skip ahead a little bit. I am going to wait until some people get in here. There is one head in the building. Go ahead and lick that like button. One head in the building. Prophetess Vance, how are you doing? Welcome. Devon Kumali, what's going on, Devon Kumali? Shout out to you. Salute. I am doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I wanted to do this video, to drop some jewels as I feel they are, Right on. Hermano Kumali. All right. So I'm going to just wait a second for some people to get in because we are doing this live. So if you watch the rebroadcast, you might want to, I don't know. There may be a timestamp. There may not be. I don't know on this as far as when shit starts to drop, But how's everybody doing? Gerald Washington, what's up, man? That's what's up. So am I. In California. Yeah. How's everybody doing this Thursday? This day of Jupiter. Funny thing happened today too. I go to the gas station and while I'm there, I'm like, hey, something's like, why don't you go ahead and buy a ticket? And I usually don't buy no tickets. Hey, 831 Community Watch. Shout out to my brother Frankie Evans, 831 Community Watch. Alice V. Claire, what's going on? Hi, 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 from Ireland. So I go in there, and they have a ticket there that has a bunch of sevens on there. And I've been seeing 777 insanely over the last few days. That's one of the numbers. And 111 and 1111 and also 999 in particular, those three numbers. So I said, I want that ticket. Andre J, what's happening? Come on in, make yourself comfortable. We got cognac, we got all kinds of liquor, we got blunts in the back, whatever you got. We got comfortable chairs, whatever. Come on in. Shit. So I go, give me that one with the sevens on it. And the guy's all looking back there. He's like, oh, we don't have it. I'm like, what? Well, why do you still? Okay. Then I want that one. Vicky Washington, what's up? Miss BB, what's happening? So I pick another one. The one I've won the most money, and I don't really play lottery a lot, but of scratchers, the one I've won the most off is the poker one. So I said, give me that one then. And then he's like, well, we don't got that one either. I'm like, well, what the fuck, So he's like, these are the ones we don't have. He writes it on paper. He slides it over. I'm like, well, fuck, I guess give me that one. You know what I'm saying? And so I just took it back and so I scratch it. I don't know if you can see this, but like these are my numbers, right? And then obviously it's only a $5 one, but I won my little 15. I done tripled my money, right? Now, times 3, right? Now, last night when I'm going on my lunar walk, I hit this one corner. And this is an area I'm very familiar with because I walk it 2-3 times a day. That's a janky, right? That's how I felt, man. I'm standing in the convenience store for like 5-10 minutes. And this motherfucker just walking around. He sees me in there. He goes to his truck. He's getting something to drink, whatever. Some old white dude. I'm like, okay. I finally come outside. I'm like, yo, you work here? He was like, yeah. I'm like, well, come on, man. Shit, I got shit to do. So, anyways, I hit this one crossroads. Before I hit the crossroads, a rat fucking ran in front of me. I'm talking about a motherfucker like that big. And if you know anything about Elegua, you know a man of the hour here as far as who's going to be involved in this reverse the curse ritual. Um, then you know one of his animals, trickster, you know what I'm saying, is the rat. So I see the rat, I get to the crossroads. There's 3 office chairs scattered about, 3 of them. 2 are over on this side. One's way over here across the street on the other side of the crossroads. I've never seen these shits before ever. Like I don't know where they came from. I don't know how they got there. I don't know whatever. And right there is a dollar, just a cash dollar on the ground. So I was just like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Profit advance. See, I look past all the just it's just the dollars or whatever. Like I look past all that. You know what I'm saying? So I started seeing that shit. I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's been pretty loud on my end. You know what I'm saying? But welcome to the video. And this video is called How to Use the Power of Paradox to Unfuck Yourself. Okay? Now, my greatest intention here is to kind of like install. You know how when you're on your phone and you go to a certain site and there's a pop-up, or if you're on your laptop and there's a pop-up, my greatest intent here, at least, is to install some pop-ups, right? Because when you're faced with whatever the situation is that you feel you're stuck in, I guarantee you, more than likely, you're at a place of paradox. You're just not recognizing it. And so, go feel free to write any of this shit down. I was going to write notes. I'm going to tell you what my notes look like. As far as I got, I'm like, you know what? Off the dome. We're just going to come off the dome with it. At least I got 2 or 3 points written down here. Fuck it. We're going to roll with it. It's getting later and shit, and I just wanted to get this out. But first of all, we'll start off like this. We got 10 heads in here and only 6 have cunniling that like button. We're going to start with that first, okay? Don't ever forget, like, share, subscribe, and thrive. Like, share, subscribe, and thrive. And if you forgot, okay, like, share, subscribe, and thrive. All right, so you want to hit cunniling that like button. It's absolutely free. Takes you about 0.005 seconds. And the algorithm loves it. It gets her nice and moist. She pops off, okay? So go ahead. Now, first thing is, I'm sure most of you know this, but let's just cover it anyway. What is a paradox? So my little definition of a paradox is a statement, a concept which seemingly contradicts itself. Okay? A synonym for paradox is contradiction. Now, in this society, we often frown on people who contradict themselves, okay? But paradox is in everything. And once you learn to, first and foremost, you got to start thinking along the lines of being able to recognize paradox. When you find yourself at a place of paradox, brothers and sisters, please understand, you are at a place of power. Okay? You are at a place of power. All right? So when you find yourself at a place of paradox, you need to, well, like I said, first of all, you need to recognize that. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you why. If you don't, let me write something down here. And I'm going to give you a treat, my little artwork. Okay? Y'all going to get to get my artwork. All right. So, usually, okay, we find ourselves in a situation. We may think we're cursed, and let me just say this too before I even go into this. As a lot of you know, we got the reverse the curse ritual going down on Monday, okay, June 14th. The doors do close tomorrow night. And there's a reason for that, because there's a lot of preparation I need to do over the weekend. It is a group ritual, but there is also another aspect of the ritual that is more personal, in which you and I, via a recorded segment of the ritual, will do a ritual just for you. Okay, this is for those who feel that they are um, cursed in a particular area of their life. Let's just start with that particular area of their life. Some of you may think you're cursed just all the way around, you know, but the thing about this whole thing, you got to be careful with how you language shit, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you're not cursed. I'm not saying that you are, all right? I do know this. If one truly believes that they are, then no one can tell them differently. And they're going to see all the evidence in the world to indicate that they are. Oh, right on, Prophetess Vance. There you go. That's the link to find out more information about it and to see all the goodies you get. And I'm announcing this right now too. I'm also going to throw a PDF of the Kabalyan. If you're not familiar with that book, it's kind of like, I think it's the 7 laws of the Kabalyan, basically. So you want to learn these laws when you are learning how to use paradox, because the fact of the matter is you can't get away from paradox. Okay, so you need to learn to work with it. All right, so most of the time, plus, positive, good, this is what I want, minus, this is what I don't want. Get this shit away from me. The paradox is in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to explain all this. All right, but what happens is when we start labeling shit, that's bad, that's whatever. We start to polarize things. And when you polarize things, you got to remember, everything has a rhythm. Everything got a rhythm. So the pendulum will swing. As far as it goes this way, it's going to swing that way. You can bet your ass on it. It's not about if it's going to happen. Now, what the alchemist, what the sorcerer does, by way of his mental faculties and how he understands, or she understands, paradox, is that you can use these 7 laws. You can use this law against that law, to help to neutralize, or to you basically kind of escape the swing of the pendulum, not get hit by the pendulum, because it's going to go the other way. The whole thing, like we've heard some of the examples of paradox, right? The more you know, the more you know you don't know, right? The other one, this is more of a situational paradox, but let's just say right now, you went back in time and you killed your grandfather, right? Which would mean that your dad wouldn't have existed, which would mean you wouldn't have existed. But the paradox is, well, then if you don't exist, how would you been able to go back in time and kill your grandpa? You get me? So, I mean, that one's more of a way out, okay, type of thing. But let me give you more mundane examples, okay? I like using fitness examples, right? We go to the gym, people, right? A lot of us go to the gym, or we work out, we do whatever. We bust the shit out of our bodies, right? But that is not where muscle is made, or where fat is burned necessarily. All that takes place when you're doing nothing, when you're resting, right? So it's like, you mean I'm actually building when I'm doing nothing, and I'm actually tearing down when I'm doing something? Yep. That's like a weird little paradox built in that right there. Other examples. In a relationship, the one who is less attached, we can maybe even say the one who cares less, actually has more of the leverage and power in that relationship. You would think logically that the one who's investing more, doing more, would have more of the power. But that is not so. And many of you can attest to that. I'm sure if you look back, you can see anytime you put too much emphasis on something, anytime you put too much, let's get back to the artwork. Hey, Jazzy E. Anytime you put too much emphasis on what it is that you want it too bad, it has to happen, or even better, which cracks me up in dealing when I deal with certain people, they almost come like it has to happen a certain way. And I'm like, you know, the more force you put on this, you are automatically creating the equal and opposite polarity over here, which could be resistance, which could be all kinds of things which seem to counteract and contradict what you want. And this seems to like get in the way of this and will keep it away from you. So, in an area where, let's say, you feel like I'm cursed, right? Let's say you feel you're cursed in relationships. Maybe you always get left, right? Maybe you always get into some form of an abusive relationship. Maybe you're the one that always leaves because no one can seem to kind of keep your interest or whatever. I don't know what the deal is, but maybe it has to do with finances. All right, maybe it just, I don't know. You pick which one you want. What we have here, a lot of that is a lot of this shit going on. Okay. Another example, I was going to save this one for exactly as an example of how to use paradox. Okay. But I think we're going to just keep going on a little bit more before we get into that part. And then, after that, I'd love to see if anybody has questions, because you'd be surprised. I love questions, and, the questions help to build something that, I didn't know about. So, like, I love the questions. I love exploring this shit with y'all. So, the point is, you can't get away from this. So, you better learn how to use it. And so I wanted to just basically be able to drop, some jewels or some gems that you can use. Maybe you can write one or two of these down or something, place them where you will remember. So that way, because it's so important. It's kind of like the same thing with the glass half empty, half full. Either way, you get to be right. So you might as well be right in a way that serves you, you know. And then it could be said paradoxically that really maybe all these ways serve you. Think about it. If you look at like any successful person or most successful people, you will find that they were put on the path to success by maybe buttloads of failure, maybe a tragedy, maybe a situation that happened that people are like, oh my God. And then it's like, if it wasn't for that situation, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Like they used it as a catalyst as opposed to being polarized by it. When you fight something, when you're resisting something, whether that's maybe the way you feel, maybe you feel some shit and you don't like it, so you resist it. You try and suppress it. You try and repress it. You try and anything but actually just allow it. You're doing this. That's why they say to be able to accept whatever. Even the AA people know that shit, about there is power in acceptance. Another synonym, what it is, PG, another synonym for acceptance could also be surrender. In my opinion, surrender is just the lack of resistance. If somebody comes at you and says, give it up, and you surrender, you're just saying, hey, okay, there ain't no resistance, The same way, though, when it comes to whatever it is that's troubling you, whatever it is that you struggled with, in our culture, in this Western civilization, this Western orc mind, we are basically programmed to fight everything, And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a time to fight. There's a time for this. There's a time for everything. When you're dealing with paradox, the science of paradox, everything is valid. And everything has within it its own different seeds of they say every paradox reconciles itself at some point. You know, at some point, hot becomes cold, the same way cold can basically almost be hot. I mean, you ever touch something that's real cold, it almost feels like it burns your ass. You know what I'm saying? And if you've seen frostbitten fingers and shit, like that shit almost looks burnt. You know, Letitia Strong, what's going on? Birdie Garcia, what's up? What's up, Miss? Right? So I'm making this video too. Whether you join the ritual now or not, you can use this immediately. But we are going to be using these principles within the ritual because I want to help as many people get unstuck as possible, get uncursed. They say that the way to success, and this is true, not they say, this is true. Think about it. The way to success is to fail more. You know what I'm saying? Now, for me, when you think of, you might think of like, where's my plus? Success, and this is failure, right? But a mental shift, instead of failure, I'm going to say feedback. This is just feedback, right? So now, this is now something that I can use. I don't resist it. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not going to not make a move because I'm afraid of this failing. No, I know it's just failure. It's data, it's information, you know? And just like a heat-seeking missile, a heat-seeking missile will find its target because it uses the negative data to make its corrections until it hits its target. You know what I'm saying? So just by that simple shift, that's why I was also mentioning about it's very important how you language shit. You know, I called the ritual reverse the curse because I know people really do feel that they are cursed. And once again, I'm not here to say that they're not. You know, it can actually be both. It could be just them, but in their reality, they are cursed because that's what they see, that's what they experience, that's what they feel, you know? And a part of this whole, thing that we was dealing with, this ritual, is also dealing with the karmic aspects which contribute to your experience here, possibly as being cursed in whatever area you got going on, you know? And these paradoxical principles, they exist on many dimensions and many levels, you know? So the way, first and foremost, that I wanted to share with y'all as far as how to use paradox, as I mentioned before, the first thing you must be able to do is recognize that you're at a point of paradox. Okay? Because the point of paradox is the absolute point of power. When you find yourself at a paradox, you find yourself at a very, wow, what perfect time to hear this, man. Ha, for real. See, synchronicities abound, brothers. Synchronicities abound. So when you find yourself at a paradox, you are at an extreme place of power. Now, it is your job to recognize your position. Okay? Like I said, most people get caught up in the illusion, they get caught up in their emotions, and they can't see past that. They just can only see surface level things, occurrences, and that's one level, but they don't go any deeper than that. Okay? Let me give you a personal example. As many of you know, or some of you know, years ago, Papa Shangito was without residence. He was homeless, right? And I went through a lot of different shit, okay, during that time. And that's a whole movie in and of itself and a whole adventure in and of itself. Looking back, I would not trade it. It is during this time of homelessness that I really dove into my occult sciences. That's where I first picked up cartomancy, divination with cards. I taught myself that, or I won't even say taught, because I believe I took to it like a fish to water. So it was like I was remembering something from a gift, a skill from a past incarnation. That is what happened, But that's when we met again. during my darkest hour, during one of my biggest dark nights of the soul, you know? And I'm going to share the paradox part, okay? One of the paradoxes. Well, you do have that fishy moon. You know I do. I know you shit. Yeah. So one of the things that contributed to that in hindsight was I didn't like commitment because I felt constricted. So having a job, right, is a commitment. You have to be there every day at a certain time and you can't leave, right? And I would often feel like I'm fucking choking to death. Like it's choking the life out of me, right? And I'm like, I'd rather just take my chances, because even though I might have been roaming the street, I still felt a sense of freedom, right? But at the same time, not having any money or having very little money, obviously I had to be very resourceful about a lot of different things in order to, survive and shit. That's a whole other story. Um, but the paradox in that, which I ended up figuring out, I mean, even like in relationships, like I was just like, I felt constricted. But here's the paradox, one of them that I realized, right? Hey, Bodhi Mommy, what's up? So, with this is another paradox that you will find, right? And this goes for anything, no matter what you're doing, right? Um, Without self discipline, you can't have true freedom. If you're just too free, where there's no structure at all, you don't get nothing done. There's no direction you're going in, and you just blow around like a leaf in the wind, right? Too much, I don't want to say self discipline because, well, I guess you could say it's self discipline, but yeah, one day should be, right? So, too much discipline, you don't allow the freedom of synchronicity to come in, to be able to pivot, to be able to zig where you should zag and all that shit. You're too locked in. You're too structured, you know, almost imprisoned by your structure. So it allows no room for improvisation. It allows no room for, adaptation. You're too stiff. No Cash App, Bodhi Mommy, but there is a paypal.me/Shango Ray. I'm working on the damn Zelle thing still, you know what I'm saying? I finally got my Google Play working. You know what it was? I had to update my phone because some of my apps were acting crazy. See, it's the update. It's not the retrograde. Speaking of retrograde, we are in a time right now of retrograde, right? Where we re-examine, we re-evaluate, we re. A lot of all the words with re on it apply, are conducive to this energy right now. So some people, I know, boy. So some people say, oh, don't do spells and all this shit during retrograde. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, once again, you got to use what is going on. You can use anything, right? Just like you can use a waning moon, a moon that's going away, for prosperity, because you can banish poverty. You can banish any of your poverty beliefs or attitudes or perceptions that you may have that are contributing to you not experiencing your prosperity. You see what I mean? Like, you can use the different poles. You know what I'm saying? Pause. but but that's one thing I realized too. Like, you're never going to have true freedom without self-discipline. You know, and vice versa. True self-discipline. Here's another one. It's another fitness one. Right on, Prophetess Vance. Thank you. Um, so okay, let's just say you're trying to lose weight, right? The typical logical thing that goes with that is your calories got to be, you got to be burning less calories. I mean, taking in less calories than you're burning, you know? And it's like up to a point, that's true. But then there's times, depending, your body starts to adjust, right? So let's say you're fasting, like you're doing intermittent fasting or some shit like that, like every day, no breaks, right? Well, your body starts to um, slow down on the fat burning. So paradoxically, it doesn't make sense logically. You gotta sometimes take that logic shit and just throw it out. Paradoxically, it doesn't make sense to have a day where I go and just eat whatever the fuck I want, pretty much. I mean, without going too crazy, but you know, where I throw out my constraints and myself. It's a day to relax and just chill. I get to kind of reset, But those days help me to keep getting fucking shredded. It doesn't make fucking sense, but it does. It's another paradox, a mundane paradox, but a paradox nonetheless. You know what I'm saying? So, love Mimi, what's happening? What's happening? My PayPal was oh, I get it. That's cool. But that's also why we are using, or we are working with Elegua in this particular ritual, especially this one. Now, in some traditions of Santeria, he's this particular, and some say this is actually Eshu as well. I think this is more Eshu, but Eshu and Elegua are two sides of the same coin. Just like Jesus and Satan are two sides of the same, or Jesus and Lucifer are two sides of the same coin. You know, we find that in everything, I used to play with Elegua. Yeah. So that's why I'm using the black and white version though. When you think black and white, you think yin and yang, right? They seem to be two polar. They seem to be two. They seem to be totally opposites, but they are actually the same, just different by degrees. That's why I really would like y'all to, if you haven't checked out the Kabalyan, I got the PDF. I'm going to be sending all the ritual participants that too as well, just as another extra bonus gift, because it's really important. And you can also check out the audiobook. I be listening to the audiobook. I got that on one of my playlists, and I put it like on 1.50. So it's like it talks faster, you know what I mean? But because sometimes they be talking hella slow on that shit. But yeah, either way, however you get it, but I'm still gonna send you the PDF. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very short little book. It just details the laws, what they are, and how they work, so you have a better understanding. And it is important to understand. We all hear about the law of attraction all the time. That's just the law of magnetism. You know, but there's 6 other laws that they don't really talk about that are just as important. None is more important than the other. And there's like the law of gender. Everything has a masculine and a feminine polarity to it. If you look at a battery, the part with the little belly button on it is the positive, and the little flat part is just like a car battery. Just like the lights you need positive and negative in order to have electricity, to get shit going, to get shit working. If you only have positive, you ain't doing it. And if you only have negative, you're not doing it. You need both. It's funny. I just looked at the clock right now and it said 3:33:33, just when I happened to look at it. Anyways, so the first is you got to be able to see, and that's why I said, when if you're in this ritual, you're going to get the PDF. If you're not, you can still look up the PDF, get a free version of the PDF, the Kabalyan. Or you can look at up on here on YouTube, Kabalyan audiobook, in case you want to just listen to it, like while you're at work, or if you're working out, or you're walking, or you're doing whatever. Sophia Gaddison, your profession is demonology? I kind of like that. No, I wouldn't say it's demonology. Uh, but yes, so that's what I'm telling you about the Kabbalion too, because that helps you to, train your mind to recognize in all areas of your life, to be able to see the paradox. And once you can see it, now you can start to work with it. Y'all crazy. Hmm. All right. But now let's see, you're able to, now you start practicing, right? Just where, like, you could do it at any time, think of any situation in your life. You could see You can start to see the paradox in it. What used to be a weakness could turn out to be your greatest strength, you know? So, but the way that you use it, I can't give any actual specifics right here because I'd be here all night. There's no way I can totally give, specifics. Um, what's most important to me is just about how to view it. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? You know, you could shift right then and there in an instant, depending. You got to use this though. You got to use this. So when you recognize it, a powerful way to begin using paradox is to ask yourself some questions. All right. Now, let me give you another example of how one might use paradox. Okay. Let's say you have a test that you're taking. It's an important test for an important class, right? You find yourself at times, because you're putting too much emphasis on what needs to happen, right? This has to happen. I gotta pass it. Okay. Now you're creating a counter resistance force, an equal and opposite counter resistant force over here. So, how do we get around this shit? Well, in this example, and I almost kind of feel in all examples, you want to visit Fucketville. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm sure some of you know about Fucketville, but Miss Beebe, that would be Prophetess Vance and Adela Deaconess Smacky when she's around, but she's not here right now that I know of. So let's say, okay, I got this test. I'm feeling anxious. Hey, loving life. Shout out to you. I got this test. I'm feeling anxious about it, right? In some of my spare time, I use my imagination to envision myself. What if I fail? I'm going to fail the class, which means I'm not going to graduate, which means on and on and on and on. This story in my head. I see myself being a fucking bum somehow, whatever. Like all these things, right? All these events transpire that trace all the way back to this test. So now you really feel the pressure that you got to pass this test. All right. The key would be, and this comes back to also learning yourself, knowing how to mind fuck yourself. You have to know how to mind fuck yourself. Okay. If you let this thing just go on automatic, it's going to fuck you. You got to learn how to, where the leverage is with yourself. Okay. So in this example, what you would do now, what you would do is one thing. How you would do it, that's an individual process. Okay. What may get me there, it may not get you there. But this is what I would do. I would get to a point, I would find this middle place here where this middle place is, hey, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I don't care. But this is the thing about that. In order for this to work, right? And you will see that it would more than likely work, especially if you have also studied and done some things. But like, if you study in this example, right, of the test, if you're studying and you're putting too much onus on that it has to be this, well, we've already talked about the counterbalance, right? You're creating resistance. The more you press here, the more resistance is going to show up here. This time in the form of your anxiety and all this other shit. And when you're talking about like taking a test, for example, you cannot access information. If I was relaxed and studying, then I need to be relaxed in order to access the information. My brain is reconfigured when I'm in anxiety, when I'm worried, when I'm all this other shit and stressed out. It's not the same. If you imagine there's different rooms in your brain or in your mind, I should say, you don't have access to the relaxed study room where all your answers are at when you're panicking. Recalibrate. Exactly. Well, there you go. And yes, I am, Sophia. I just said this does apply to everything. And thank you for saying that. See, I love y'all participating in shit because I'm gonna get to that as far as magic goes. But in this case, you have to somehow, that's why I said you gotta mind fuck yourself to not care. Now let me make a careful distinction here. Okay? That whole fake it till you make it shit does not work with this. You're not fooling anybody, okay? You're not fooling yourself. If, yeah, you look like you don't care, and maybe everybody thinks you don't care, and you're fronting like you don't care, but inside your stomach's looking like a fucking pretzel, you know? That's not authentic. That's not real. You have to literally, really find that place, find that way in which you actually like release it, where actually you just like accept the fact that hey, you could start by getting yourself to neutral, which is hey, you know what, I'm about ready to shit my pants, I'm so anxious. Come to grips with that. Just accept it. Stop resisting the fact that you're feeling anxious, number one, right? And then once you're there, you can just take some of that fuck it dust and just sprinkle that in there. And now you really are just to a point where like, hey, you know what? I've done all I can do. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're like, you know what? I didn't really have as much time, whatever the case is. Hey, it is what it is. But the main thing that you got to have is you got to have that, I guess you could say, a feeling, right? It has to be genuine. You have to be like, you know what? Whatever it is whatever it is. Like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do my best. And whatever it is whatever it is. And I'm willing to bet you 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, you're going to pass that test. Now, this young lady here just mentioned about magic. This falls right in line. Think about it. When you're casting a spell, you're more than likely casting a spell because you're conscious that you need something, that you lack something, right? What if you don't know how to surrender? I've fought all my life. Good question. Save your questions for Q&A time, Miss Bibi, because that is a gold one, okay? And we're going to get into that one, all right? Don't worry, we'll be there soon, just a minute, because there's not too much left I have to say, but we're going. You guys get me going now. You guys get me going now, okay? So this would be the plus sign, right? Plus what I want, what I feel I don't have, right? So if I'm already vibing on that, I feel I don't have shit, then what I'm doing is I'm setting up this counter. It's negative side of energy, okay? It's unseen side. It's like two magnets. You ever had two magnets? And I don't know which way it is that you turn them, but they seem to like repel each other. You ever try to do that? That's what you're doing, So the way to get around that's another way. Release your own mental illusions. Exactly. That right there creates polarity shifts. That's where all the true alchemy is even in. I just posted something on Facebook that said, you may not be able to alter you can't alter your reality, but you can alter your attitude towards it, which paradoxically alters your reality. You see what I'm saying? So when you're being the alchemist, the one who turns lead into gold or gold into lead, depending on how you're working your shit, it's an inside job. That's why all this time, I don't know how many videos have I done made now up until this one, where I keep saying how you have to give yourself that which you feel you're lacking. You can't expect somebody else to give you love and faithfulness and loyalty and respect if you're not loving yourself, respecting yourself. It's like you're a portal, and whatever you give to yourself, you're going to see mirrored and externalized, seemingly externalized from the outside coming to you. And I don't mean that in like a scary ass narcissistic selfish type of way. There's like a divine selfishness, and then there's a selfishness based on fear. Fear that someone's trying to take some shit from me, someone's trying to do something to me, someone's trying to get over on me, all that shit. And so it basically what it does, it constricts you. You don't trust nobody. And believe me, being somebody who was a street connoisseur, like, I understand that perspective as well, you know? So, being in the game and all that shit, you learn pretty much, you better learn anyway, that if you're on that particular vibe, there is not too many people you should trust. you know? So, however, conversely and paradoxically, giving yourself that love. What does that mean, right? When you're giving yourself that love, you start to respect yourself more. If I respect myself more, then I'm going to say no when I mean no. If somebody tells me, hey, can you do this for me? Can you take me here? Can you do this? Can you do that? No. You know, I need Ashe on that. Ha. So, you see, and then you start carrying yourself that way. Number one, like, you start vibrating on another level. So that's one thing, right? But then every cause has an effect, right? That's in the Kabalyan as well. Every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause, you know? And you enact a new set of cause and effects. Smooth, the ritual closes tomorrow night. Yes, Vicky Washington. Yes, sovereignty. That was one of my things when I was in homelessness. I said, you know what? I want to be sovereign. Like, it started that way anyway. But it's like sovereignty to me. I feel like I can see myself being the Baphomet with yoga pants on, just floating above both polarities. In the middle. Autonomy. Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. Now we cooking, cooking like fish grease on Friday. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyways, I forgot where we were about the spell. Oh yeah, so when you're doing a spell, you have to be mindful, first of all. You got to know where you're coming from, right? Now, we all have situations where we might dip into desperation. We might feel desperate. First thing we want to do is grab a candle, go sacrifice a chicken or something. No, I'm kidding you. But you get what I'm saying, right? You got to slow down a little bit first. It's good to get specific, okay? I know I'm freaking out here. Sometimes in doing nothing and just letting the freak out part pass, Dr. David Hawkins talks about how life will fucking take care of itself. It's really more about getting out of your own fucking way, And when you're all freaked the fuck out, you're definitely in your own way. There's no question about that. You know what I'm saying? And believe me, we all have moments like that, But the more you start getting into this shit and start making this more of a way of your being, the less and less and less and less your freakouts get. The less and less and less the less intense your freakouts get. Because you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I always love the concept of sovereignty. Yeah. And the truest version of sovereignty is when you can be in hell, but it's like heaven to you. Because you're the alchemist. You know what I'm saying? So how you choose to experience, what you make it for yourself internally, of course, we all know is going to be reflected externally. We've all heard the as above, so below as above shit. We've seen pictures of different nebulous in the universe that looks exactly like that thing in your eye, and different body parts look like things that are on the outside, and it's like they all mirror each other. But so I don't want to get too off the point here about the magic ritual part, but so as far as this, the more desire that you have for this shit, like I said, you're just going to make more resistance. So I tell my clients this too, and I know they hate to hear it. They hate to hear it. And in some ways, I cannot blame them, because maybe they're not on that page here yet, as far as to be able to see things, There's just a certain time and a place where you can just start to see things, and it just doesn't seem to happen sooner than it should, or not should, but sooner than it's supposed to. Think about when you're younger, or think about this: the you of 10 years ago. You probably read a book, maybe you read some of this metaphysical shit, and there's certain things you got from it, right? Now you today go back and read that same book. It's like you're gonna be reading a different book. Same words are there. You know what I'm saying? But the different spectrum of light in the words. Now you're getting the higher spectrums, you know? So, same words, but you're receiving something different, you know? But, anyways, they hate to hear when I ask them, can you be okay with not getting this? Because if you answer no to that, then I'm pretty sure we cannot work together. Because that means you have an attachment. You're attached to a particular outcome. And I get it. I'm not saying I don't understand, but I also understand now from the person that I am now, and from just who I'm resonating as now, why that's counterproductive to what you want. And I'm trying to help you get what you want. Awareness. Yeah. It's another word, synonym to that. Awareness. So if they can't answer that, then, like I said, more than likely you want it too bad. And wanting it too bad, as I always tell all my clients, is like having the carrot on the stick. The carrot is the object of desire, or what you prefer, and the stick that keeps it away from you and will continue to keep it away from you is the desire or the awareness that you don't have it. Okay? Now, this is where it starts getting like metaphysical, because if you can own it in your mind to the point where you feel that desire inside you, that, oh, I need it, where that shit just like dissipates, like a long, airy fart, just, right? That's how you know you're more than likely you're now on the train track, because we're in this human experience, right? And even though everything is all at once, from our individualized and fractured perspectives, right? We are in this thing that we call time. So it's one consecutive moment after another, i.e., another synonym for that is some form of a process. We experience as a process, even though technically all the stages of the process actually exist at once. But your awareness is moving through the process and having a good old time, having a little adventure down here, pretending that you're not divine, pretending you're just human. I think, you know what? I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna pretend I'm just human. I'm gonna make it seem to where as if I want to believe I'm totally all alone and nobody had, that, I could believe that. But yeah, so when it comes to magic, that's one of the things you have to be aware where you're coming from. Now, if you're using it as in, hey, I think I choose this, you're starting off with much more of an advantage point. Okay, the other thing is too, sometimes their expectations are that Shango's going to sprinkle his pixie dust all over the shit and it's just going to like fall in someone's lap. And more than likely, that's why you've heard a lot of people say, and I'm not the only one to say this, you cannot expect to get new shit being the same old you. Because everything the same old you has right now around you, that's it, man. You can't expect nothing more. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. But if you're on your process and you're turning your frequency dial and you keep turning that shit up or changing it, I won't say up, we'll just say different, right? Different to match that which you feel before that you didn't have, then watch what happens. Now synchronicities start abounding. And As Neville Goddard puts it, a bridge of synchronicities appears before you in which you walk. Even though the end already exists. And matter of fact, you probably at that point already possess the end inside. To whereas, like, I don't even almost need this shit anymore. I don't need this shit. Like, I feel like I already have it. Feels I like my logical side wants to say that I'm insane, but I know better than that little motherfucker that I already have it. You know. So my point with this is not really how to do that so it hits, but more or less what to look out for. Because if you're starting off too desperate, now I will say this: sometimes you can be desperate, right? Let's use some paradox here, right? I can use the ritual. I'm gonna tell you like this. How about this? When you do a magic ritual, you come into the ritual feeling one way, but you should leave the ritual feeling another way. All right? That's how you know you did the shit right. Even if when you leave the ritual and you feel differently, it's because you left all that want and lack in there. And now there's like a sense of some form of accomplishment. Even if you just reach neutral, where you're like, hey, you know what? I put it out there and whatever it is, but like I can now move on and think about something else now. You know, like it's not something that's you're ruminating on. If your HS drags you, oh yeah, for real. For real. Yeah, for real, for real. But if I don't want it, what would be the point of doing a ritual? I just said it. You got to trick yourself. You know what's going on? MBE. Yeah, you got to trick yourself in a way. It's okay to want it. Let me put it to you this way. You can use the ritual as a catalyst to turn that want into, you know what, I already have it. That should actually be the point of your ritual. That should actually occur during your ritual. You should walk out of that feeling like it's already done. It's already yours. If you come out of that ritual and you're looking around, where's it at? Where's it at? You're still in square one. Does that make sense? That's how you keep fucking yourself. That's how you keep shooting yourself in the foot. Because really all you're doing is magibating. You know what I'm saying? That's all you're doing. I'm on fire tonight. That's all you're doing. And believe me, I've done plenty of magibating, okay? Do a fucking spell and all that shit and then be like, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? You know? And it's like, you didn't accomplish nothing. Even if you come out that ritual just a slight degree, just a slight degree, you know what I'm saying, of difference, that's okay too. Because all big things start small. You see what I mean? So you can consider it like a seed, you know? And speaking of seeds, there's a certain meditation where you get any kind of seed, right? And especially if you know what this seed grows into, the complex mega structure that this seed is going to turn into, you can tune in to the unseen essence of that seed that already exists within that seed. That intelligence that is there. You know what I'm saying? And that complex structure already exists already within that fucking seed. You know, it's just a matter of time, of what we experience as time. But on the unseen realm, where time is not an issue, that shit's already banging. You know? So if you can even just find yourself a little bit of, you know, a shift. I'll say a shift, you know. But I think the main thing to take away from any ritual is you need to come away from that changed, even if it's a slight change, even if it's a small change. You need to be just that much different. Sometimes it's just them small degrees of change. Them small, tiny degrees make the biggest fucking difference. Trust and believe that. You know, I've often used this analogy all the time, like as far as trajectory goes, just to get a better understanding. Would you say that if a basketball player did a ritual, hold on, yeah, the unseen realm has no time. Just to get or all exists really in the unseen realm. So yeah, there is no time. Shango, just to get a better understanding, would you say that if a basketball player did a ritual to be as good as Michael Jordan, he would have been just as good? Perhaps. That's my answer. That's my answer for that one. Perhaps. Because it would also depend on what happens after the ritual. Does he stay on that alignment, that track, you know, that railroad track that leads to greatness that would be considered greater than Jordan? Or does he slack off, do drugs, and just fuck a bunch of groupies, you know, and not and now he's in this other weird part that's like I'm not going towards the greater than Jordan part, but I was better than I was before, but now I'm in this weird kind of no man's land. You see what I'm saying? Like, because at any time you can deviate from your shit, you know. At any time you can pull that seed out the ground, and then what, you know. So once again, that's kind of up to that individual. That's more of a hypothetical question, but I mean, yeah, I mean, anything is possible, you know. But if you look at what Jordan did to be Jordan, I think there's some clues there, you know. Be ready to pivot or shift as needed. Yeah. And you know what? Let me see what the MB say. Smooth. A basketball player did do that. His name was Kobe Bryant. Look what happened. Well, I mean, I don't know about all that. Like, I mean, I could see that I could see some points in that. Tom Brady did the same thing too. I'm not aware of that shit. Like, I don't really keep up with basketball or football, so I don't know. It wouldn't kind of surprise me about any of that, you know. But hey, but the ritual is like the catalyst. It gives you that preview, but the preview you're going to see and feel inside you, because that's where the difference has to fucking be, you know. And then once that difference is set, uh, and you can set it also by letting it. You set it by you let it. Okay, go. And next thing you know, and you start watering that shit. How do you water it? Also, you may not constantly just think about that particular thing, but there's other things around it. So you start consciously, you know, and don't forget, you know, there's a proactive aspect of shit too that we got to do. You know, hey Melvin Brown, I'd love to hear about that sometime, man. Honestly, I believe that shit though. Somehow I feel that Kobe Bryant was like that a little bit of a ritualist. However, he had to put the same amount of work, if not even more, to be totally obsessed. Maybe, maybe, who knows? Um, but yeah, so the ritual is the catalyst part, and the main part of the catalyst needs to be inside of you, needs to be within you, needs to be within your consciousness, needs to be within your energy, needs to be within your actions. You cannot do that. Oh, my energy is different now, but I'm gonna still do the same fucking shit and think that no, those actions spring forth from the person you were before you got in that ritual. So you don't want to go hustle backwards, as they say. You know, you want to make sure you all all aspects of you are congruent. You must watch the Super Bowl when Tom Brady played against the Falcons. You understand how serious? Yeah. So yeah, but hopefully that illuminates, sheds a little bit onto the whole magic ritual thing. You know, you kind of leave the desire part there. You know, and some would say you burn out the desire. You get it so hot, so you know, and you get to that place where you actually, even if it's a fleeting moment or two, but you experience the reality of it, or as far as what you can conceive the reality to be from this point in time right now, and you go forth from there. But you leave all that shit there, then you let it go. You know, you let it go. Yeah. So that's what you do. You know. But anyway, so let's get into some questions here. Let's talk about it for a second before we get out of here. if there's any question about this whole paradox thing, how to use paradox, or, you know, maybe through a question I can get, another example of something, or, whatever. Mics are now open though. Okay. So what's up? Miss BB did say some shit about the letting go part. Miss BB, you still here? Or did you check out? But that is what most people find difficult, is the letting go process. And once again, you have, okay, good. Now, as far as with the letting go process, it may not be, well, I'll say it like this. A lot of times it is, most of the time it is this simplistic, but just because it's simplistic doesn't mean it's easy. As I've said before, to run a marathon is very simplistic. You just run 26 miles. You just run 26 miles, that's all. You know, to do a triathlon, you run a marathon and swim miles and do whatever the fuck else you do, doesn't mean it's necessarily easy at times. Buy Kobe Bryant book for the kids called Wizard. You understand? Oh, okay. Yeah, for real. I guess people think they can do a ritual and just kick back, but yet you still got to do work, right? Yes, you do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know what? If you've done it right, okay, you'll start to experience that the work becomes something you can kind of get lost in. You start to enjoy the process, to whereas you forgot there's even an objective, depending on what it's for. Now, yes, you can, there's certain times where you do rituals and it just seems to fall in your lap, right? But your feet put in the work to put you in that place where it could fall in your lap. You see, like it may not have been much physical effort, you know what I'm saying? But maybe you felt like eating something that you don't really eat. So you're like, I think I'm gonna go to this restaurant over here, over there, and then boom, something happens, or you run into somebody. Maybe you've been looking for a job, right? And all of a sudden you get this weird hankering for fucking sushi, and you never eat sushi, right? So you go to the sushi spot, and you happen to run into one of your old friends that you ain't seen in a while. I'm like, man, shit, oh yeah, you looking good, man. Shit, what you been up to? Oh man, I got this job. Real? Oh, okay, shit, yeah. They hiring too, man. Oh, for real? Oh, here now you get a job. That's just a loose example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, see, that's the paradox. Jump into your divine timeline. Yeah, for real. Vicky watched it. Once the ritual is done, shouldn't you just leave it be? Once again, yes, you should leave it be as far as, the ritual. But there may be elements depending on what it is for. I can't do a ritual to be a doctor and think that just me doing the ritual and cutting these chickens up is going to make me a doctor. There's obviously some steps. Once again, it depends on what it is for. You feel me? So if I weigh 400 pounds and I do a ritual that I want to lose weight, there are ways that can happen where I'm not really taking too much action. Like I can get some fucking disease and then the weight just melts right off, right? I can get a very a very expensive cocaine habit or some shit like that, and the weight will just melt right off. But that's probably not the most optimal way, right? So, not trying to exaggerate shit, but you'd want then your actions to start to line up. So, yes, I might want to put some shoes on and walk my ass around the block a few times. I might want to do things in the natural. You always want to try, because the reason why you want to also do actions is your magic. Think of your magic as this etheric type of cloud, right? It's just an example, it's just a model. And it needs to be channeled down into the physical. We are the vessels in which it gets channeled down to the physical. So for a lot of your different rituals, you will find yourself, it would behoove you to take actions that are in alignment with that. Like, I'll give you an example. If you want to move, start to pack up some of your shit. If you were moving, and if this ritual is successful by all definitions and intents and purposes, then you're going to start needing to pack at some point in time, right? You can start getting a heads up on it. I'm gonna start packing some things right now. I'm not saying pack your whole shit up just yet, but like little by little, and watch what happens. Next thing you know, you can never understand the effect that you put in effect through some of your causation. And when you are aligned in that particular energy, then now that's not just an action. That's an action aligned with your fucking magic. So it has a whole other smack to it. And the causation has a whole other smack to it. You understand? Yes, but your objective has been met. Don't you trust in the work or process? Yes, I do, but like I said, depending on what it's about, you know, like in my example of like if it's something that you know is going to take some time, right? Once again, it depends on what you're going for. It depends on what you're casting for. Because if it could be something like, well, let me put it to you this way. That end result, let's just say this the end that you're trusting in, right? The end result, it's not just you talking to the end result. The end result also talks to you. Okay? So you might get something that's called a hunch. You might get something that's called, hey, I just feel inspired to just do this all of a sudden. I don't know why. It's a feeling. But within that feeling, encapsulated in that feeling, is a whole bunch of things that you know not of. That's okay. You don't have to know of. All you got to do is just follow through. You know? Now, it's like, do you expect your magic to work if someone's just like this? No, I'm not doing nothing. I trust it's all done. No, no. Like, I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't going to work either. Polarities, that's not going to work either. You got to be free to flow. You know what I'm saying? Free to flow. You know? So, I'm just saying a little common sense on that one, you know? But I get what you're saying, and that's a great question, you know? Um, At the same time, you don't want to try and take too much action, polarities, right? You don't want to take too much action because then it's like you're trying to force it. And when you try and force it, you're setting up this again. I didn't make the rules. I didn't make the rules. You know what I'm saying? But as we learn these principles, I'll say instead of rules, let's use another synonym, you know, so focus on achieving nothing for it to work. No, you can be focused on the end, right? But it's the attachment to the end that will fuck you. Okay? Now let's just use a common sense approach as far as what I'm about to say. If you genuinely, truly feel, no, it's done, then you can still, when you leave that ritual, you might, hey, you might get an idea, hey, maybe I'll take this class, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that, right? What depends on what it is, of course, but you're not doing it as in you're trying to force something. You're doing it now. These ideas, these actions are starting to flow forth in a natural way. It's more natural to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I think I'll try this. I think I'll try. I'm kind of intimidated about that. Just another paradox. They say what you fear the most is what you should do. If there's something you really want to do, but it scares the shit out of you, that's the one thing you really need to do. Paradoxically speaking, anyway. So it's your attachment to it. You can be attached to wanting it, or you can know that you have it. Okay? The wanting it is what caused the attachment because there's a deficit there. You feel you're lacking it. You know, you can't want something that you have because you have it. Feel me? Does that make sense? Two, I mean, they look kind of similar to a logical standpoint, but there's a whole world of difference in the difference. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? Do you get that? This bed is big, little. The Goldie Rod, right? So, how do you know when to do just enough to not force it? I'm gonna say this. That's a good question, Smooth. And once again, that does involve a little. That involves somewhat of knowing yourself. You know, what is? Do you know what it? Do you know what you feel like when you're trying to force something? Do you know what that emotion feels like inside your body when you know, like, you feel like there may even just be a little bit of desperation, or like, oh my God, whatever. And, do you know what that feels like? Can you recognize that in yourself? Because once you start, as we expand our emotional intelligence, first of all, with ourselves, learning your energy, you know what I'm saying? Learning, like, what emotions I really am feeling, what's really going on. You can kind of tell, most of us can tell when we feel off, but we don't know why. But as you start becoming more familiar with that, then you can tell the delicate little intricacies between one emotion, one of your energies, and another of your energies. And then once you learn all that, you can start identifying other energies that are not your energies. You know what I'm saying? But that's a whole different thing. But as far as your question goes, I would presume, like, you know what? I'm going to say that you probably know. You probably know when you're forcing something. When you do a spell for prosperity and then you go to the fucking store to buy a lottery ticket, you can tell. Versus when you're not even thinking about a lottery ticket and all of a sudden you get this feeling, and it actually kind of feels pretty good, like, hey, you should go get a lottery ticket. Like I did. I ain't been buying no fucking lottery tickets. I am my lottery. But today, I wasn't even thinking about it. And the shit just kind of like came to me. Hey, you should go buy a lottery ticket. It was just like that. If I could put a voice to the feeling, hey, you should go get a lottery ticket. Okay. All right. Threw $5 down. And then the one I wanted wasn't there. This one wasn't there. And it was like I was directed to the one that won. 3 times the amount. And 3 is the number of Elegua. Okay. And we're working with Elegua. Eshu, Echu, all right, in this particular ritual also. But anyways, so does that make sense to you, Smooth, though? Talking real shit. Like, I believe you all know when you feel like you're forcing it. And then when you're in your flow, you know? It's not really rocket science. Anytime I think something, it's a definite go, shit goes left. I would say honestly though, that's a byproduct of honestly of not really knowing yourself. Cause you gotta remember, man, when we're dealing also our ego, we have ways that we like to fool each ourselves. We all do it. You know, it could be very slight, or it could be real strong and loud. But we all have our ways of fooling ourselves. I've done it before. I got, in a way, I kind of logified myself. Yeah, let me go buy 10 lottery tickets or whatever. And that ain't how it happened. I lost all of it, you know. And I mean, that's just a rough example. But that's where meditation and shit comes in, man. It really does. Because it just makes room so you can start, better identifying, just becoming more familiar with, like, how you work, how your emotions are when you feel this, what it means when you feel that, you know. I just bought quick picks too. Hey, well, if you hit the millions, you know what I'm saying. You know where to find me, Vicky Washington. You know, anytime I think something, it's a yeah. That to me, you know, I don't know for a fact, but you know, to me, Smooth, that sounds like, you know, that's kind of like when you say, "Oh, I thought my intuition told me to do this." It wasn't your intuition. Your intuition is never wrong. Now, you got to be honest. You got to understand. You have more than one voice inside there, and a lot of them sound pretty damn close to your intuition. You know, Donna Hendricks, peace, God. So you got to remember. You know, okay. Hos- Hospital in the morning. Oh shit. Okay, optimum health to moms. Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us, Miss BB. I'm glad you liked the combo too. That's what people. We all love this type of shit. I know I do. I can talk about this shit for fucking hours. I can ask questions. I can, you know, we can. What if? What if? Not clear. I second that emotion there, Vicky. I second that. That's to me what it sounds like. You know, and part of being able to be clear is to be able to identify which voice is which inside of you, because you do have an intuition. The point is to be able to hear that intuition amongst all the other loud fuckery inside you. And we all have the loud fuckery inside of us, you know? It's like if you're in a crowd and it's loud and everybody's fucking talking and you know, it's this wall, this cacophony of sound everywhere. But someone says, smooth, you know, you hear that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like basically being able to acutely tune into that, you know. But as it relates to, and believe me, I know it, I empathize with you because there was a time where I felt I was cursed. I felt like I was where there's a word for it where like energetically reversed, I believe it's called. I think you just made me realize the what? I mean, nah, you ain't nah. Correct that shit. Correct that shit, man. No, you're not. You know, and paradoxically speaking, well, here's some good news if you said that, right? Yeah, exactly. He said it's actually a good thing. Like I said, if you feel you're over here, right? This is inconsistent loser. If you feel your pendulum is over here, then you have just as much propensity for your pendulum to go like this. As far back this way to Loserville, you got enough to get into Successville, Ballerville, whatever you want to call it. So ain't nothing permanent. Everything's always in a constant state of change. You know what I'm saying? So you know, but I emphasize, like I said, man, I was homeless for fucking how long and shit, man. I did some actually miraculous shit while I was homeless. You know what I'm saying? That people just was like, how in the fuck did you do that? You know, while I'm homeless, I became a licensed facilitator in this energy modality known as Psyche, right? They use muscle testing and you know it's a modality used to change your subconscious beliefs, but you also obviously you incorporate the body and shit, right? So lack a long story, here I am, this fucking homeless dude, and I mean I don't smell like it or look like it. I always made sure that, like, to the best of my ability anyway. But I find myself in this room of old white people, and they're all like millionaires and shit. And by the end of the little workshop, like, and this is like I was barely kind of getting into my occult sciences, like kind of reuniting with my shit, and but I had all these old white guys and old white chicks and shit. They're like I was sitting on the edge of their fucking seat, like with what I'm saying and shit. I should have used it to have them exercise their hand and writing me a check, But my vibration wasn't right for that. There was something in my vibration that was like I didn't deserve it, or that I wasn't worthy, or I felt shame because only I knew my little secret that I was homeless and shit. And that was like a fucking shadow. I had to work to get rid of that shit. That shadow, that shame. Shame will fuck you. Shame will fuck you, you know? You got to transform that. you know, I'm not saying that you have it. I'm just saying, like, if you do, you got to transform that because that motherfucker will follow you like a cloud. But anywho, I agree with you, man. There ain't no good and bad, Smooth. There's just what is. And you can turn that into its polar opposite. Actually, its polar opposite exists. If you like, let me use you as an example, Smooth. Igosa. You're right, Vicky. We're gonna have more of these. We're gonna have more of these. We're gonna have more of these. You can feel the light. Hallelujah. I feel it. Jesus is in the house. Hallelujah. Shabakasobaraba. Uh, I would suggest for you, Smooth, like, and I don't know your situation. It's been a while since I talked to you. Look at whatever aspects of your current reality right now that you consider a disadvantage. Okay. And now using some of this, like, okay, where's the paradox in this? Right. So if this is a disadvantage, in what ways can this actually serve me? What is there I can learn from this? Right. Remember, when we talked about part of releasing karma and shit, or not even releasing it because there's nowhere for it to go. It's like more or less reconciling the karmic aspects of these that may be keeping certain things in place. I'm not saying that your situation is a karmic one or not. I'm not saying that at all. But part of that is also making or reconciling with that, making, I don't want to say making peace. That sounds stupid. But anyways, like as far as your situation goes, like a lot of times your higher self will let you fucking tussle in the muck, and every once in a while your own self, you will put your own foot in your ass, like kick yourself in the ass. And then your lower self here, the human version of you, Smooth, may be like, damn man, I can't catch a break. But you're being pushed, you know you're being pushed by you in a certain direction. And what is propelling you? It's all this, what you might say is negative, or you might say displeasant. You might say, whatever these things are. But it's not going to let you get comfortable like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got somewhere to go. You got places. You got places. What is I used to say? I got places to go and people to do. So like, you got some shit to do. You came here for a reason. And just fucking around, blowing like a leaf in the wind is not going to cut it. And there is an aspect of you that will make sure it does not cut it. Now, however, you do have free will, so you can resist against that shit or not. But my point is, if you start to look at it with different eyes, you can start to see where you can now start pulling advantages out of disadvantage. And that's where you literally just start transforming. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, change your vantage point. Change your vantage point. I always feel deserving of somebody giving me their money, even when I don't really deserve it. I would challenge that maybe. Maybe on one level you do, you know, but I'm willing to bet there's another level of you that, as far as just your own feeling of self-worth, probably doesn't match that. I'm willing to bet it. I call bullshit on that. I'm willing to bet it. But more than likely, you're not even aware of that aspect of you. You know, it's in the background, it's in the shadows. You know, it's in the shadows, which is pretty common. It's part of like the human condition for the most part, unless you were raised in some optimal condition where you were constantly praised and, maybe just slightly not put down and shit and, all this other stuff. But yeah, for the most part, we all have some version of it. It's like in The Walking Dead, right? At the end of season 1, when Rick Grimes goes up to the doctor. They did all this shit to get to this one doctor to see about how they can fucking reverse this shit. And the doctor pulls him close and says something in his ear. And you don't find out what he said until later on. And it's like, we all got it. In other words, we all gonna turn into fucking zombies. We all got it. You know, they trying to make that shit real, right? With that poke. Anyways, so any other questions? And it's my intention that that you get some. You could just take one shred of something. I always said that I'm the type of person, and I feel like each one of you are this type of person. Also, you give me some crumbs, I'm gonna make a cake with it. I can make a fucking cake out of them crumbs. I'm gonna do it running too. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so it's all about your perception too. Your perception is such a transformative what not appendage apparatus. Your perception is such a transformative apparatus. It's unbelievable. What was that? Alice V. Clare says, is it necessary to embrace the shadow to make the pendulum swing in the direction that achieves the desired outcome? That's a good question, yo. My opinion of that, upfront and necessarily, no. But you may want to address that shadow because depending on the situation, it's your shadow side that actually created the situation that you're having to do the alchemy on in the first place. So there is that relapse type of period too. Like I said, there's different time frames all within you, right? There's the time frame of, let's say, whatever situation you're going through, right? But then you got to remember, your life has cycles, different cycles to it. And so you might think you're in the clear because you fixed it with this ritual or you did something, right? And you managed to do this a time or two, but you didn't change that pendulum inside of yourself, AKA your shadow. So now you get to do a reprise, okay, later on when you least expect it. All right. Does that make sense? That's what I always say. I'm magical as fuck. You know, does that make sense to you, Alice? Do you understand what I'm saying or what I'm trying to get across? So no, you don't necessarily have to. I would look at it too that let's say okay, so I'm facing a situation, right? Let's just say we're facing a situation here, right? So I start putting on these things, changing my okay, where's the paradox? I start working with paradox, whatever, and I change the situation. But at the same time, I'm doing this. I'm also realizing and asking myself other questions like, you know what? What within me actually cause this though? You know, what else is there to learn? What else may I need to make peace with, integrate? So now I'm not working against my shadow self. We're working together. You know, you can also use a situation like that. In that case, to me, that's like a huge blessing. So it's like the desktop icon or the app icon on your phone that represents like this whole process. So let's say the desktop icon for you would be whatever the situation is that you're you know playing with the balls and shaft of paradox with, right? So, but it's like your higher self used this situation to even get you thinking about if it wasn't for this situation as this pleasant as it is, you would have never started thinking along them lines in the first place. So your higher self, yourself that exists on a different density, different dimension, different level, who has a different perspective and can see the whole picture. It's like, let's put her in this situation because I already know what I'm going to do because they're you. And they know that through this situation, yes, you're going to learn some shit about paradox, but you're going to learn, more importantly, some shit about yourself. See? Yeah. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got to like, and it's not just an intelligence thing, by the way, either. You know, there's people who really ain't that technically intelligent that'll whoop your ass with some, know how to use that paradox. Think about it, man. The bee, all animals have intelligence, right? And as smarty pants as we fucking think we are, and we're like our scientists, our Caucasoid scientists are like, by my calculations, you shouldn't be able to fly. And you know what the bee says? you know, so yeah, good, good. I'm glad it does, Alice. Good, good. yeah. So, uh, yeah. So if we don't have any more questions, I think I'm gonna conclude because Papa Shangito still has to do leg day today. You know. I should show you these teardrops, you know what I mean? But nah, I ain't gonna buzz you out like that. You know? But yeah, I gotta torture myself for a little bit. I gotta almost make myself throw up. You see, yeah. That's when you have to realize life is full of anomalies. Exactly. Exactly. And I think these anomalies are just due to our ignorance of the totality of things. Just like what we might call a miracle. A miracle is just a name, it's just a title, but it's a name or a title describing a process which we do not understand. But just because we do not understand it does not mean it's just as scientific as the science that we do know. We just don't understand it. So us being in our human fucking meat suits, this brain of ours doesn't like open-ended problems. It likes to have a why. It needs a why, you know, which is why even you go back in time and shit, and it's like, well, the reason why it flooded was because we didn't put enough offerings to this particular god or goddess or whatever. You know what I'm saying? D's magic when you work out. No, not I don't. Well, I mean, once again, I guess that depends on one's. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Because if you magic is the act of what? The technical definition of magic is basically the ability to what? Materialize your will or project your energy to make your will manifest somehow. You know, it's just in that particular way, it takes a lot more of my physical effort, you know, but I think the mental part comes in is where, because I remember when I was a fat fuck, you see me smooth. You had plenty of jokes. You on my picture that I posted where my face was drowning in fat. You know what I'm saying? Like my face was like drowning, like in fat. Like here's my face, and then the rest of it's just a fat head. You know, and there was just this one point in time where I reached this shit where it was like, for some reason, I just knew I could do it. Now, immediately after I had this aha or whatever you want to call it, I could still look in the mirror and see man titties and a belly and all this other shit. Okay. But it was a different path with this. It was like, I don't know. I felt pulled, excited because I knew like I could reach a certain result. And then I also felt pushed versus me trying to force myself to do it because I should, that's a whole different feeling. If you feel like for whatever your goal, your intention is, as far as your actions that correspond with that, if you feel that you are pushing a rock up a hill, you are going in the wrong direction as far as just first of all your energy wise. And that may be a case of like your perspective. It might be a case of whatever, because and sometimes we have fears that get in the way, which kind of complicate things. But once we kind of reconcile that, like for example, let's say you want to write a book, right? But every time you go to sit down in front of your computer screen and you see that blinking thing and it's a blank screen, you might feel overwhelmed, you might start thinking like, fuck, man, like you kind of fuck yourself because you start thinking like, I only wrote one paragraph today, man. Like, I'm never gonna fucking finish this shit. Same thing with the working out. I could have worked out. Next day I look in the mirror like, damn, still got man titties, still got a belly. This shit ain't ever gonna work. And it's that type of shit that's what makes the friction. That's what makes it feel hard, or that's what makes it feel like you're in your flow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's say you're writing the book. And so instead of looking at it like, you know what, every day I don't care if I write a sentence, I don't care if I write 3 pages. Every day at this time, I'm committing to myself to just write. Now, if I get in a flow, I'm going to go with it. You know, I'm not necessarily going to judge whatever comes through. I'll review it later. Like when you're making a song and shit, sometimes you think you got some hot shit, but then when you listen to it, you're like, what the fuck was I there? I smoked too much weed that night, Or you listen to it again. Sometimes I've gotten super high and I made some shit, forgot what it was, listened to it. I'm like, God damn, that shit hot as fuck. And I was like, where did this come from? Didn't come from me. It came through me, but it didn't come from me. But my point is, it's all that internal bullshit that creates the friction. But sometimes when you can just finally get yourself to start doing just a little bit, it's kind of like the dam. It's got a crack in it, and it starts leaking. All of a sudden, the dam just busts loose, and it's like the shit just starts to flow. But that whole busting loose part, like some of that's going to be on you to actually, who no one's going to make you sit your ass down and write a book. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point in time, you got to take responsibility for yourself as far as, okay, if I'm going to write this book, I don't care if I write one sentence a day. This book might take me 10 fucking years to write, but I'm going to do it. Commitment, and as you start working your commitment muscle, your self-discipline muscle, then you start taking on more, you start doing more. Now you start enjoying the shit. At first you may not enjoy it. You should just prepare for that, you know but yeah, I don't know, kind of going off the thing. Cause and effect, yeah, self-discipline. Mm-hmm. It's easier to have that self-discipline when you kind of like already, it's like you stole a piece from the future, from your future self, like you stole some of his feelings and you have them with you. You know what I'm saying? And it like ties you to him or her, whoever, you know, the book writer, right? The one whose book's already finished. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're writing a book or something, make your book cover first. Make a fake book, stick that motherfucker on there and have that there. It's like that's your quantum reminder from another dimension that this shit is done. You just get to enjoy this process. And believe me, when it's all said and done, you'd appreciate it. Now, yes, there's gonna be days where you don't feel like doing this shit. No matter what it is. If you're starting a business, there's gonna be some days you don't feel like doing that shit. Especially if you pick the right business, a business that you actually, you know, are excited about, you have passion about whatever it is, you believe in it, versus just something to make money. Like that can be cool, but some people, it's just they're just super passionate about the making money. Some people are super passionate about just making, they're a salesman. It doesn't matter what. I could sell floor cleaner, I could sell fundraising tickets, I could sell crack, I could sell anything. I just love to sell shit. I know some people that go out that love going and buying shit, turn around and selling it, whether that's just miscellaneous shit, clothes, depending if you have a niche. I know one of my partners, his specialty is video games, older video games. I know if I work, when I was in the phone room, work with Jim Walters, him and his wife would go to fucking garage sales. They bought a salt shaker set for $2, but he knew what to look for because that was his fucking niche. He got a little boner for that shit. He likes to buy and sell shit. Sold that fucking salt shaker set for $2,000. Yeah. So I'm just saying, man, Doesn't matter what, long as you get like somewhat of a chub off of it, because there's some passion, there's some inspiration in spirit too. If it's just all this, it's gonna fall flat. It's gonna be like flat soda after a while. You might do it for a while, but you know, that's just my take on it though. Whatever happened to you that made you transform your body like that is what I hope happens to me. I ain't worked out in a year. Well, I used to work out when I was younger. I first started working out when I was 12. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Stopped, started working out again when I was like 14. Of course, I just started getting some pussy and shit. 13, 14. So like I'm trying to get it right, even though I was like skinny. And then you know, a couple years later I started working out again for this, and that was like one of my longer stress. So it's like I've had that within my system, from when I was young. But then I just totally left it alone for a while. Obviously, got fat, and I don't know. One day I just got out. I tell you like how it is. I got out the fucking shower one day. You know how it is, and you wipe the mirror off, the steam off the mirror, and you just kind of look at yourself, and you're like, And my mom had told me some shit because she had seen me smoking a cigarette. She was like, "What are you doing? You're smoking and you're getting rounder and rounder. Like what the fuck is you doing? And for some reason, all that shit, like it was like an intersection for me right there. You know what I mean? Hey, what's going on now? But that's the way I can basically explain it. And then it's like for some reason I just had this I can vision or attitude to where it's like, you know what? Instead of looking at how hard it might be, like damn, it might take me fucking 4 months to even get decent, It was just like for some reason I thought, you know what? Bet you if I started today, like I could start making some progress like in a month or two, at least in a month or a few weeks. And then, of course, usually, like if you are, depending on how overweight you are and shit, like usually when you start working out, maybe the first week or two, you don't see much, but there is that point where you get out that shower and all of a sudden now my titties ain't so big. You know what I'm saying? My stomach ain't, my paunch ain't so big now. Like, the shit's working. You know, and that makes you want to just keep going. Like, okay, now I'm seeing some shit. Now we talking now. Okay, all right, let's do it. You know. But yeah. So, anyways, speaking of all that, I got to get out of here. We might do a part two tomorrow, or just we're gonna have more of these conversations. Believe me. You know, these are all interesting, and y'all make this shit. You know what I mean? Because the questions are good, and even if they're not technically good, they're still good, So it's like, hey, it's just like the story. Yeah, you got to rewind this one now. It's just like the story of this is the one I told before. Thank you, Alice. I enjoyed your participation in it. You know what I'm saying? You helped to make it. But I'm gonna leave you with the story of the old Chinese guy. All right. I think I've told this before, but I'm gonna leave with the story. Once again, this is working with paradox, man. What's recording on things? Yeah. It's starring you out, huh? I had that. It used to do that with me too. And I was like, I had to turn that shit off. No, if I said nigga fuck what, like it needs to say nigga fuck what, don't correct me. I'm grown. That's how I look at it. All right. There's an old Chinese guy, right? Surprisingly, somewhere in China. What's up, cat? There's this old Chinese guy, right? Surprisingly, somewhere in China, in the mountains of China, somewhere. And he has a son, right? And I know most of you probably maybe have heard the story, whatever, but I told the story too. Like, I made a video about it a couple years ago. So what had happened was, they had horses. So a couple of these horses ended up escaping, right? So all the neighbors crowd around and shit. What happened, yo? what happened, Chung? And Chung's like, yo, the horses escaped. Oh my fucking God, yo. Oh my God. That is the worst thing that can fucking happen. Yeah, let that shit play. And you know what the old man said? He's just like, You know, like in the Kung Fu movies when they're just like, they don't say yes or no, they just go, He just said, we'll see. You know? And so then his son goes out, right? Next day, his son goes out. And his son finds the horse that was missing, right? There was a horse. We'll just say it was a horse. Finds a horse that was missing. But this horse ended up making some friends. Ended up clicking up with some wild Chinese horses, right? So somehow they get all these horses into the stable now. And so, of course, all the neighbors with they nosy looking ass come out. Yo, Chum, what's up with this? What? My son found the horses, and apparently the horse made some friends, so we brought them all back. Yo, this is amazing. This is fucking amazing. This is like the best shit, yo. Chun. You know what Chunk said? We'll see. All right. So, fast forward a week or two, the son is taking one of these wild stallions, right? And he's trying to break them in. So the other horses, know the get down, right? But this wild stallion, he ain't been broke yet, you know. So he's trying to he's getting on the horse and he's trying to ride the horse, and finally the horse ends up winning, right? So the horse ends up fucking jerking his ass off. He flies, lands in just the right way where he cracks his femur bone, breaks his leg, screaming and shit. All the neighbors with they looking ass, right? Come on out to the stable. Yo, Chung, what happened, man? My son, he broke his leg trying to break the buck, trying to break the stallion. They said, oh my fucking God, man. That horse is bad luck, man. That horse is fucking cursed, man. You should fucking shoot that motherfucker, man. This is terrible, man. This is like the worst thing that could ever fucking happen, man. What do you think Cat says? That's right, he said. We'll see. So they get the son and hook his leg up, put a what do you call it? It's not a cast. They didn't have cast. Where they put the stick, and tie the stick around close to the leg and shit. And he's over there healing and shit. Next thing you know, sees a bunch of military motherfuckers riding through town. A splint. There you go. And there's General Chang, right? General P.F. Chang leading the brigade. And he comes in, they roll into town. They pull up, right? Talking about, look, we at war. And we need every able-bodied young man to come fight in the war. Well, everybody's oldest son got taken. Except for Chung, because his leg was broke. And so when the brigade finally leaves after they collect everybody's firstborn or their oldest sons and shit, all their able-bodied sons and shit, and they're taking them off to war, and chances are they ain't going to see them motherfuckers again. It's a wrap, pretty much. For the most part. I mean, who knows, but there's a strong probability you're not coming back home. All the neighbors with they looking ass say, oh my God, Chung, your son, he was spared. Oh my God, this is wonderful. This is great. Oh, it said I was reconnected. It said I just got cut off. And of course, Chung, in his immaculate divine Chungness, says, and he had the long white Chinese beard. You know how they be doing that? Sometimes they throw it over their shoulder or whatever before they, Hmm. We'll see. That's it. That's the story. Peace. And we shall be back tomorrow. Okay? Join the Reverse the Curse ritual. Link in description box. Or watch this video again. Write down these jewels. Click on the link that Prophetess TV posted earlier. All right? Peace.